Every day we stray further from God's path. Okay, so it begins. I guess the thing to look for is, I guess the point of this whole exercise is to see whether or not any of the footage matches up. In which case, we've got Toho on the screen all at the same time, but as far as I know, this might be the last time anything syncs up. I don't know if this is a good idea. I don't know if anything will come of this. This started as a joke. I had a friend who had put on all three diehards on 3 separate screens for a movie night in college. And he noticed that the big explosions at the end of each film all synced up. And so when I told him that I bought the Showa Godzilla set, he was like, oh, you should get 15 screens and 15 Blu-ray players and play them all at once. And I was immediately mocking the idea, and then we were like riffing on how stupid an idea it was, and I was like, well, I wouldn't get 15 screens though. I'd just rip all 15 films to my hard drive and then put them in a grid and then export that one file so I could watch all 15 films on just one screen. And then the more we kept riffing on it, the more I figured out how to do it. And so, because I make good decisions and I know where my life is going, I'm now watching all 15 films at once. Anyway, point is, I have no idea whether or not this is a good idea. I told myself in the planning stages that I was going to aim for like 10 minutes. So if you check the timestamp right now and you see it's less than 10 minutes, that means I could not think of, I did not meet my goal of the minimum number of interesting things to say. I appreciate if you like and subscribe videos on my channel, but don't like and subscribe because of this video. So we've got Godzilla on a couple of different screens, but he's only really appearing in that bottom right-hand corner down there. That's just a recap of the previous film, the end of the previous film. So at this point, we've had Godzilla actually make an appearance in one film. To the right over there, that is, I believe it's Destroy All Monsters. That was another thing I was trying to figure out during the planning stages for this video, was how to identify which film is which when I play it back for you guys. I was thinking I'd go with some sort of battleship style grid, which if, again, I'm planning this thing as I go, so if you're staring at the screen right now and you see a grid of letters and numbers along the edges of the Godzilla footage, that means I decided that was the best bad idea to identify the films. But yeah, it would be A, B, C. C3 would be Destroy All Monsters. And that is where Godzilla makes his first appearance. This reminds me of something in college called cinemetrics is what my professor billed it as. Basically, you just gather data about films, like hard data, like number of shots, number of close-ups, number of far shots, how many minutes of on-screen appearances certain characters make. And then they would graph everything. They would plot everything. They'd put everything in charts. And you'd be like, okay, great, what does this mean for the film? And they'd be like, don't know, but we have a lot of data now. And I got a lot of mileage in college mocking cinemetrics, but now here I am. So, of course, A1 and B1, the top left-hand corner and then the one to the right of it, the only 2 Godzilla films in black and white, are the first and the second, of course. And those are the 2 where I actually had to futz with the aspect ratio. Those images are stretched in a way that would make the filmmakers probably cry, but I figured it'd be better than having black bars on either side of it. It's not important. Nothing I say in this video is going to be important. This website is free, but I feel like I owe you all refunds. This video is going to be a search for what we can learn by viewing a franchise in a grid like this. I didn't expect anything. At most, I thought maybe some explosions will line up. But I notice, looking top to bottom, it's interesting to see fashions change. It's interesting to see film stocks change. It's interesting to see budgets. The special effects get better as you go down, for the most part. I mean, so, as you go down, you're going forward in time. and the budgets are generally getting lower. So if anybody's wondering how I created this video file, what I did was I ripped all 15 films, and then I imported all these 15 video files into DaVinci Resolve, and then I put them all onto one timeline, and then I hit export. And the export for this video took 36 hours. Looking at the franchise like this, you get a good feel for the wide array, the wide variety of settings for them. Just looking at the screen, I see several tropical islands, I see oceans, I see cities, I see domestic settings, I see a space station, I see a moon base. And the settings are kind of indicative of the budgets. As the series progressed, the budgets got less and less, and you tended to see more tropical islands because they were cheaper to film than cities. So to the right there, I see two groups of spacesuited aliens. Anytime something syncs up, I'm gonna point it out, because I mean, what else are we watching this for? I haven't so far settled into watching just like one or two specific films, but every time I look at the top right-hand corner of the screen, that's King Kong versus Godzilla, and right below it is Invasion of Astro-Monster. And those are the two films in the Showa series that had the most American involvement. So every time I look up there, I'm like, how are those different, mayhaps? So the bottom half of the screen is kind of occupied by what's known as like the cheap Godzilla films. And it's true that the Showa series, and especially the second half of the Showa series, has this reputation for being really cheap. Like, people say that they look like Power Rangers episodes, and like they say this in like a really derogatory manner. And it's true that these films are very cheap, but it was in response to this very specific pointed problem that the Japanese film industry had to solve if it was going to exist. And that issue was TV. In 1964, Tokyo hosted the Summer Olympics. And what that meant materially for the country is that everyone got a TV. And so where in America, television's rise to prominence was kind of slower, Japan had happened very quickly, and the Japanese film industry had to adjust accordingly. Over in America, the way that Hollywood coped with the rise of TV was they decided to make these bigger, grander extravaganzas. Budgets for films went up, and production schedules lengthened. They were trying to show that they had something to offer that TV couldn't match. Toho, the Japanese film industry, went the exact opposite route. And in order to compete with TV, they tried to make their movies more like television. So, especially towards the bottom half, the bottom 2/5 of the screen, these films were shot in like a month, like 3 or 4 weeks, with the same crews or similar crews. And anyway, if they look cheap, it's because they were cheap, and it's because Japan was trying to replicate the look of films, but with the resources of TV and the production schedules of TV. And you know what? People complain that these movies look cheap, but they survived in an entertainment market where they might not necessarily have done so. So power to them. So I'm kind of watching them all on mute, but what that does is I'm paying more attention to framing and shot duration and camera movement. And there's some interesting things, like Destroy All Monsters to the right there. C3 is, they had these guys' faces framed in the circles. I'm seeing a lot of one perfect shot style, really cool shots. Looking at Ebirah Horror of the Deep, as I said. Oh no, it's not Ebirah Horror of the Deep. That's right. Okay. A4 is All Monsters Attack, which is the film. A lot of the films in this series reuse footage from earlier films, but All Monsters Attack is the most notorious one. It's basically like a recap film of the series that uses footage from at least 3 others. So I was watching it thinking that was Ebirah, but it's not Ebirah. Hey, Aya. You want to film a video? Come on. It's my dog. Come on. Come on. Come on. Alright, my dog's participating in the video from now on. Can you see? I don't know. She is. Looking at the screens, I see there's a lot of women in terms of like number. Like I think I see 6 women on screen playing through different scenes right now. But I'm probably going to talk about this more in my real video about Godzilla. Is women make appearances in all these Godzilla films, but in terms of representation, it's a really mixed bag, like weirdly mixed. In some films, they are mere window dressing, and in other films, they are central to the stories, central to the conflicts, central to the themes. At some point, just once in this process, I want like every screen to have a kaiju on it. Hi. Oh, thank you. Explosions! We got 3 explosions lined up. Okay, bottom right-hand corner of the screen there is split screen within split screen, apparently. One thing I'm learning while watching the videos in the grid like this is that the pacing is all over the place. Some of these films are like approaching like their 3rd act, whereas others are just getting started on their 2nd. Like in the top right-hand corner of the screen there, King Kong just left Skull Island, whereas other films on here, like Godzilla's already on like his 2nd fight. Oh, there's more split screen. Godzilla vs. Hedorah is B4. More split screen within split screen. I don't know. Maybe the filmmakers wouldn't be so horrified to see somebody watching their work like this. Okay, so in A3, that's Ebirah, Horror of the Deep. I happen to know that Godzilla makes the latest appearance of any Showa film in that film, and it's at the 53-minute mark that this bolt of lightning revives him from his slumber. And I only mention all that to confirm that we are now 53 minutes into this. I drank this entire protein shake just because I didn't want my voice to dry out, but now I gotta pee. I'm surprised how far we are into this process, and certain villains are only just showing up. Like B2 is Ghidorah the 3-headed monster, and Ghidorah has only just appeared, and we're almost about an hour into this. So I have my microphone propped up. It's being propped up by a blanket, which my dog is now burrowing in. So if the microphone suddenly falls over, that's her doing. Okay, we still have villains appearing. That's in dead center there is Kumonga. The giant spider is making his first appearance, even though we're over an hour into the films. Yeah. You're killing me, Smalls. Come on. Come on, you fickle beast. Come on. Come on. Depending on how I cut this all up in post-production, you'll see Aya enter and leave the frame randomly, and it's because she's being a little fickle right now and hasn't decided where she wants to settle yet. It's okay, we still love you. Flashing eyeballs, seconds apart, followed by laser beams, on 3 screens at once. Who knew? Eagle-eyed viewers will note that towards the left-hand side of the screen, Godzilla is being attacked by a squadron of fighter jets, and it may look familiar because the film right below it, All Monsters Attack, had reused this footage, but they reused it earlier in the runtime of their own film. So it looks like Ebirah is ripping off All Monsters Attack. In fact, it is the other way around. I am telling you this so that you'll know, and neither of us will ever use this knowledge again. Okay, this has got to be the latest appearance of a kaiju. Very bottom, B5 is Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, which is King Caesar is making his appearance well over an hour into the film, and I think that's got to be the latest appearance, although his appearance is foreshadowed all throughout the film. He's the one who actually shows up to the party last. We've got Godzilla on most of the screens now. Like I think it's a majority. I think that's as good as we can hope for in the Godzilla appearing on each and every screen department. I think that's the best we're gonna get. So we got our first film coming to an end. All Monsters Attack. It's the shortest film of the Showa series. That would be A4 to the left and down there. It's our first The End. And I happen to know that means we're 69 minutes into this. The final two films at the bottom there showcase two characters who are cutting through their bonds at the same time. And those films came out back to back. So apparently it's dramatically important in a lot of these films for characters to get trapped momentarily in the last act. Jesus, how long is Manila going to be trapped in that silk? We have the two most ridiculed moments in the Showa series on screen. We have Godzilla flying in B4, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, and then we have the Godzilla Megalon fight in A5, where he did his infamous flying kick. As I'm looking at the screen, I'm pretty sure there's only one film where there isn't a battle going down right now, and it's, or at least not an external battle. It's A1. It's the very first one, Godzilla. There is an internal battle though. This is the scene where Dr. Serizawa is like trying to decide. Well, if you watch the movie proper, you'll see. Okay, so the second shortest film of the Showa series is B1, Godzilla Raids Again. That is the last shot of the film. This isn't useful information. It's just now we have this data. I'm not going to keep a running tally, but there's got to be at least like 7 of these films that end on a shot of a monster entering the ocean, walking away as the people on shore wave. If we started these films backwards, which is the only way to make this experiment dumber, and run the films in reverse, but we all start from the end, they would all have this giant The End title card fade into the distance. And then a monster walks out of the ocean backwards while people wave hello to it. As we're nearing the end and I'm looking at the ones that are still playing, I find myself asking, were the extra run times worth it? I just happen to be asking myself, are the ones that are still playing my favorites? And the answer is kinda. And we got that great King Kong shoving the tree down Godzilla's throat shot, which is pretty iconic. So we've got in A2, Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla tumbling into the ocean. That's the last time that he appeared as a villain in the Showa series. I say that, and immediately I'm like, so what? I was like, I don't know. I've been drinking a protein shake just to keep my throat lubricated during this process. It clearly should have been alcohol. I know that the first Godzilla is the longest one. That's the last one that's going to be up there, but I don't know what the second longest is. I do find it interesting that Invasion of Astro-Monster, to the far right there, is clearly the longest running battle. I don't mean that it's that the battle itself is longest, but that the battle is taking place further into the film than any other, because the battles are over in the other two films. They're just winding down. Again, don't know what it means, but it's a data point. I guess at the end here, I'm just thinking about how like it's interesting to consume 19 years of Japanese film history in an hour and a half. I definitely don't think this is a valueless way to watch cinema. You definitely don't experience the emotions that the story is supposed to elicit, and you're not learning anything about the story. But you're learning a lot about shot duration and act structures. Not even necessarily learning a lot. Like, it's not like I've got lessons to teach now, but it's a lot of data. So now we have our answer. Invasion of Astro-Monster is the second longest Godzilla film. I think it's interesting that the last two films, people are solemnly staring down at a bunch of bubbling water. What does it mean? Leave a comment. I like these films. I watch them because I like them. I find them interesting. And some of them can't be fun, but all of them have some degree of poignancy to them. And I think it's interesting that the last shot we got up there is of Godzilla from his very first appearance as he dies for what is pretty much the only time in the Showa series that Godzilla died. I don't know. I might be the only person who finds something poignant about it, and that's fine. But something about watching all of it, all the films that came after the very first one drop out, just for like to leave the last one, the one that got it all started, is still going. Well, this is the end. This is the last one. I don't have a synoptic thought. I don't have any remaining anyway. It's just something I thought I'd try. Don't forget to like and subscribe.